Hello and welcome everyone to Magma Rages episode 52. We've got the whole crew here this week. We've got Pandemonia and Salty Monkey joining myself. How you guys doing?
Good on yourself.
Good.
I'm scarred. I had a jail sing. I'm scarred. I don't know why I'm back.
Yep, well, that's what you missed. Starting with Pandemonia's great jingles at the beginning of the episodes until we find a more permanent jingle to go with our intro video. So
I'll be honest.
Yep.
That has to be the permanent jingle. I don't see any other way about it. You're just gonna have to clip it.
Okay, so the main news this week is around the arena changes and announcements. So first of all, to preface this, none of us are really what we would call arena experts. Most of our focus is really on standard, but we are focused on Hearthstone, and this is some pretty relevant Hearthstone news. So we're going to be discussing this. So there's a couple changes that are going to be happening to arena, along with the new cards that we saw at BlizzCon finally coming to the game. These arena-only cards, so don't worry, you're not going to be seeing these in standard because some of them would be blatantly OP there. Okay, so those cards are finally being added. That's the first important part. The second very important part, and this is basically a massive change to the fundamental aspect of the arena, is that cards are no longer going to be offered based on their rarity. So you won't just have 3 rares, 3 epics, 3 legendaries will still be. You won't just have cards grouped like that. They're now going to be grouped by power level. So you'll have 3 cards of similar power levels. They could be of differing rarities. So the example that they gave was, instead of having Fireball, Ice Barrier, and Wisp, you would now get something like Fireball, Primordial Drake, and I don't even remember what the other
Manipulator.
Was that what it was? Leyline Manipulator.
Yeah.
So you can get a basic card, epic, and a rare in the same pool, as long as they're kind of equal power level. So that's a really massive change. It definitely is going to change the way that they're able to balance the arena much more specifically going forwards. They don't have to They don't have to focus on is this card an epic, because it's more confusing for newer players. But actually, it's a card you would like to see more in the arena. So that makes the way they balance it very interesting. But what are your thoughts on this? Let's start with Pandemonia.
I think it's really good. I mean, like they say in the video, it's all about basically the overall power level of arena should theoretically be higher now, because one of the other things I'm not sure if you mentioned is that you're gonna have a higher percentage chance to be offered better cards now, in addition to them all being of similar power level.
Yeah.
So they're obviously trying to make, they're trying to make all the decks a little bit better, so people don't complain, because sometimes you do an arena and all the certain picks, it's all just bad, right? And then you get sad and you cry inside.
Yeah.
But I think it's good. I mean, it also is nice to see that they are paying attention to arena, and still giving it, attention and love.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, there have been a lot of changes in the recent months, even to arena, a lot more focus. Some good, some bad. Everything from synergy picks to micro adjusts. It certainly caused a lot of stir in the arena community. And it has at least shown that Blizzard have some more attention. This one is probably one of the most fundamental changes, because it really removes a limitation that's been imposed by Constructed on them in terms of how they balance their arena and their offering rates. Salty Monkey, do you have any thoughts on the changes? How often do you actually play arena?
Once in a blue moon, because I rage at it and then just leave, because we all know I'm a bad deck builder. I've said it before. So you offer me 3 cards and I'm like, they're all bad, because I actually wanted Flame Waker. But I might actually give this a try, just because this whole polymorph into question marks seems very interesting to me. I actually like the cards that they're putting up. I'll give it a try. I like the fact that they have change the statistics in terms of how much you're getting out of it, because let's remember, you pay to play arena. And I'm saying you pay to play Arena because you're paying your gold to play Arena, which you could be saving for something else, like buying packs, whatever. So I want to walk into Arena and feel like, okay, I've got a fair chance. Even me as a really, really trashy deck builder, sometimes you get lucky and you get, cool cards. So I like that. It sort of motivates you to play more, and I might actually give this a go and see if I can be a little bit less of a bad Arena player.
Yeah, I mean that is a very interesting point, and I mean the big debate about this is whether it actually makes it better or worse as well for like the top arena players. Now that you're grouping cards by power level, it's less common that somebody's going to pick a wisp over a fireball, which would clearly be a big mistake to even a mildly experienced arena player, right? So you shouldn't be getting those kind of scenarios because the cards could be a lot closer. But two cards like Fireball and Primordial Drake are still very different in the kind of decks that they make sense in, even though individually they are powerful. It seems like the decks are going to be more about putting the cards together in ways that make them work well together, and that's something that is particularly appealing to me. One of the biggest problems I've always had with Arena is that I don't feel like I can build a cohesive deck. I just have to build for whatever is the statistically good archetype for this class. I can't.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, you feel like it's hard to pull off those kind of cohesively themed decks like you would in Magic, for instance, where in something like Magic, one of the biggest advantages in the draft format and that is that you end up with more cards than you have to put in your deck. So you don't just have 30 cards that have to go in your deck. You end up with 35 cards or so, and you don't have like you're only going to use 25 or so in a deck, let's say. So that's a big thing that allows you to pick bad cards and not have to put them in, or not have to commit too heavily to a specific synergy. So I think that if we're getting offered better cards overall, that should help people to maybe build more cohesively themed decks, and that'll be cool to see a little bit more synergy without us being forced to basically just pick bad cards, which is what happened with the synergy picks. So yeah, I think the interesting thing is just going to be to see how it actually affects the much more casual players, and how it affects the more experienced players, and how it affects their individual win rates. And ultimately, it's just probably going to see, at first, it's definitely going to see a surge of players into Arena, particularly because of the new cards. A lot of the hype is going to be around Arena, and there's going to be a lot more people playing, and just a lot more inexperienced players. So I imagine the good players' win rates are definitely going to go up at first, but we'll see where they settle after that. And speaking of the new cards, we're going to go through them briefly. Basically, each class got one card that was voted for based on their applause that they got at BlizzCon. A very shady way of selecting the cards. And considering it seems like they're not currently planning on revisiting the other options from the three that were offered for each class, that's a bit sad because some of the other options were pretty cool. But let's have a look at them. Okay, so pretty much all of them are spells except for the warrior one, which is a weapon. Deadeye is a 2-mana spell for Hunter. For the rest of your game, your hero power can target minions. So this is permanently giving you the Steam Weedle Sniper effect, which is pretty cool. It definitely allows you to possibly build a different type of Hunter, a more control-y Hunter. The big issue with this card for me is just you have to draw it still. So you can't, you still have to deal with having the base hero power for let's say the majority of the game until you draw this card.
Yeah.
Next we have Polymorph question mark question mark question mark, a 5-mana spell. Choose a minion, discover a new minion to transform it into. So obviously a very wide range of RNG with this. You could give them a wisp. You could turn their minion into a penguin, or you could turn the minion into something like Ragnaros the Light Lord, or the Lich King, which would be pretty horrible. But because of Discover, you should at least be able to choose something that is weaker than a big minion that you're using this on.
Or alternatively, you can use it to turn your minion into something much bigger.
Yeah, true. You can use it on your Wisp, and then you should definitely get something better. You can also turn a minion into a Howl Fiend, which would be pretty funny. Although, it'd be quite interesting to see how Discover works with this, because you're discovering, like, almost on their behalf. Like, well, where does the class bonus come in? is there a class bonus on mage minions still?
Yeah.
Like I'm actually not sure about that. That could make a big difference as well. Um, Next we have Blazing Longsword, a 3-mana weapon. It's a 2/3 weapon, and it also damages minions next to whomever your hero attacks. So it has that kind of cleave type ability um,
which is really
on
cool, I think.
on the weapon, yeah, which is really really powerful. And Warrior is pretty trash in an arena. I'm not sure that this will fix Warrior because from what I've heard, Warriors kind of has too many weapons anyway, so it's not that much of a boon to give them a
Thanks.
better weapon. They would rather have better minions. Um, so Blazing Longsword, it will be getting a bonus because the weapon bonus, the weapon and spell bonus. Actually, all of these cards are going to be getting bonuses really because they're all weapons or spells. The weapon or spell bonus that is inherent in Arena recently is still going to exist. And the Kobolds and Catacombs bonus is also going to be going away after these cards are entered in. That's another important thing to note. So Blazing Longsword, I think it's pretty good. Should be good to pick. I mean, I imagine most of these cards for people playing Arena, they're definitely going to pick them pretty much the first few times they see them at least to see how they play out. Next we have Hand of Salvation, a 1-mana secret for Paladin. When your second minion dies in a turn, return it to life. This is just pretty interesting card, right? Because of the way the interaction works, very different to a lot of the other secrets.
Yeah, it adds a lot more like complicated. Well, I mean, it makes it a bit more tricky, right? Because it's basically, I mean, it's basically redemption essentially, right?
But it's better than redemption because it returns it to
Oh, because
life
it's
with
not one
full
health.
health. So
Oh, right.
if this, I think if this is too strong a secret for standard because returning it to full health is too powerful. Um, or returning it, with full health is pretty powerful. But yeah,
Oh, right. I didn't actually realize. Okay, I thought it was just basically like Redemption 2.0. I didn't realize that it's actually much better than Redemption because obviously it returns to full health.
yeah. But the interesting thing is the second minion dies. It's the first time we've seen them do anything like this really with any secrets. Usually it's like a minion, a spell, not never the second minion or the second spell. So that's an interesting way. Maybe they will use that in Constructed and the new expansion going forward as well. That'll be interesting
Yeah.
to see. Not that specific card, of course, but that kind of second minion mechanic on secrets.
Oh, rip mage. They're killing mage, honestly. To do that, they'll kill mage. Done.
Uh, Next we have Generous Spirit. This is a priest spell, 2 mana, and it reads: choose a friendly minion, give it to your opponent, and draw 3 cards. So priest doesn't exactly have Howl Fiends to give to your opponent, but you
It's
can maybe give
Doomsayer,
them
right?
some kind of small weak minion, or yes, the big play, is to give your opponent a Doomsayer, but with the changes, I don't know how often you're going to see Doomsayers. That's going to be a really weird thing to figure out.
Yeah. It literally feels like one of those super gimmicky priest cards. It
Yeah.
feels almost like a purifier in a way, right?
Yeah, so the obvious thing here is you're giving your opponent tempo because you're A, spending your mana, B, you're giving them a minion, and in return
Me
for
giving
that,
cards.
no, you get the cards.
Oh, you get the
You
cards.
you get to draw the
Oh,
cards.
all
Yeah,
right.
so
Otherwise,
otherwise it would just be super trash. Yeah. So you get to draw the cards, which means you are hopefully going to get a card advantage. And if you're playing maybe like a control priest, you can possibly make it work if you can give them some kind of cheaper minion. Um, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. Next we have Smoke Bomb. This is a rogue spell, unsurprisingly based on its name. It's a 1 mana spell. Give a minion stealth until your next turn. Draw a card. So, you know, as a rogue player, I immediately think Gadgets and Auctioneer, and if you can pull that off in Arena, that'll be a really cool synergy. But overall, I think it's pretty good to just make a value trade, smoke bomb your minion, you get the card back from playing smoke bomb because you draw a card, and then you can use that minion again. So it's actually a really good tool, I think, for rogue, which is already, I think, a pretty decent class in Arena. Next we have Crackling Doom. This is a 0 mana shaman spell. deal 12 damage to all minions, overload 10. So, pretty insane. I
You
think
play
one
it
of the
on
most,
turn one.
yeah, well, you're good. I think one of the most insane cards that we saw. I think the interesting thing here is it's kind of like almost reversing the mana cost, if you know what I mean. Because you're kind of paying for the mana cost the turn after, um, with, overload, and especially this such a large overload, you're not going to be able to do anything the next turn, not even play something like Eternal Sentinel to give you back your mana crystals. What this does is it kind of forces you to go Crackling Doom and then commit quite heavily that turn, because you're basically giving your opponent 2 turns in a way, 2 turns of mana at least over you, and that means that you need to develop a very strong board in that time. So Crackling Doom is a
Yeah,
pretty interesting card. It's
it's
definitely
like
going to cause
elemental
some
destruction in
people.
a way, right? It's kind
Yes,
of reminiscent in elemental destruction.
yes, but better for the upfront tempo because you can develop more. You have more mana to develop. The difference of 3 mana makes a pretty big difference. And also, 12 damage is a lot more relevant than the amount of damage elemental destruction did. Now with the like size of minions going up, I would say. Um, yeah. So next we have Nature's Champion. This is a druid spell. 3 mana, return a friendly
Spirit
minion
Druid.
to your hand and give it +5/+5. So very much an anti-tempo card that gives you value, but seems pretty weak. Doesn't even draw a card. I'm not sold on Nature's Champion unless you can hit some really good battle cries.
Yeah, or like I mean, obviously the dream is your turn, like something with a cheap minion with a good battle cry.
The dream.
I see what you did there, but yeah, I mean, it feels too gimmicky, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure about it. You could like value trade with a minion, return it, and play it maybe if it's cheap enough, and then it's pretty good. But if you could lose out on too much tempo, and depends on the way the arena meta really goes. And I, for one, am not qualified enough to say how the arena meta is going to go with
Yeah.
all the changes that we're seeing. Um, Next, lastly, Bottled Madness. It's a 0 mana Warlock spell. Replace your hand with random demons.
That's pure memeage, right?
Yep. Replace your hand with random cards that are worse than Void Lord. Um, that's. I mean, there's too many demons, I think, for Bottled Madness to have a guaranteed chance of giving you at least 1 or 2 good demons. And a lot of the time, I think if we assume the average power level of decks go up, Bottled Madness gets worse. Bottled Madness is better in worse decks. That's the moral of the
Yeah,
story here.
exactly.
So, um, if we're gonna assume that the other changes are gonna make the average power level of decks go up, then that doesn't help Bottled Madness. Okay, so those are all the cards. The one last thing I'd like to say with Arena is for everyone that uses tier lists or helper apps for drafting and stuff, those are going to be absolute chaos for a while after these changes happen, whilst they're trying to update and understand their tier lists. Because even though Blizzard have told us, oh, they're going to change based on power level, we have no idea what they're defining as power level, right?
Yeah, I was actually about
Like,
to say that.
how do you actually? We have no idea what is going to be grouped together, what has equal power level. So it's going to be impossible for the people making tier lists to have any accurate read on the meta going forward because they're not going to basically know the offering rates of anything. All we know is that spells and weapons are going to be we know relative offering rates in a way of that kind of stuff, but we don't know the offering rates of individual cards. And if the more powerful cards are being offered more often, and let's say that's like a Primordial Drake, that can have a big influence on the meta. Um,
Yeah.
so all of those kind of tools, they're still going to be useful. And still, for a lot of the very inexperienced players, are going to be better than drafting alone. But I would definitely take a lot more of those kind of things with a pinch of salt going forward until they are able to update their algorithms and scores once we actually get some data, or in the unlikely case, we get some feedback from Blizzard on the exact offering rates of and how they're grouping the different cards.
I mean, maybe they might end up just actually taking a uh, like a tier list like Lightforge, or they might
I
end up
mean,
just taking a third person one, right?
historically we've always seen Blizzard go for their own stats and back their own numbers over any numbers that are generated by any
Okay, that's true. Yeah.
outside parties. Like we've seen it with constructed and nerfs as well. So yeah, I expect them to have their own numbers and um, which those numbers get influenced a lot more by worse players generally. So that's an interesting effect, and it's going to be absolute chaos to try and figure out exactly uh, what which cards are being offered how much at this stage, and that's definitely something I'm going to
It's
be
fun.
keeping my eye on to see if Blizzard release anything more or the arena community's reaction to that. If you are
They
looking
have
specifically for a much more in-depth arena recommendations, I would definitely suggest the Lightforge podcast. I listen to that a lot, even though I don't necessarily play a lot of arena, because I still find how Blizzard deals with arena and all these things interesting from both a game design perspective and from the perspective of somebody that has always enjoyed sealed formats. I just don't enjoy it in Hearthstone as much as in other games.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, even good arena players. I mean, like I think after these changes go live, it's always probably a good idea to watch good arena players like Shady Bunny, probably like Crip. To see what their sort of, because those are good players to see what their reactions are, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
But the thing is also
yeah.
you have to expect this. Like this is Hearthstone, and like I get it. This is going to be weird now for a little while, but we've been living in chaos. I feel like for the past year, every 3 months, Hearthstone is absolute chaos. It's about time Arena joins us in the chaotic structure of Hearthstone. I'm still not used to the new meta. I'm still like, what the hell is happening? So like, welcome,
I would
welcome
argue that
Arena players.
Arena has been a little bit more chaos because half of the
Yeah,
fundamental aspect of like offering odds has not even been known a lot because of all their um,
Tweaking.
micro adjustments and stuff. Yeah. Anyway,
yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. But
anyway,
this is
move.
Hearthstone. It's chaos.
Yep. Moving back on to other news, non-arena news. The next expansion is kind of around the corner. I mean, speculation at this point would probably put it in being released in April. Um, the original information we got on the expansion came from the uh, Year of the Raven announcement. We got this kind of placeholder image for the expansion, showing expansion 1, expansion 2, and expansion 3 with some kind of, you know, design around these portals or gemstones or whatever they are in the middle of these images. And, we kind of discussed this a little bit before, but we've definitely got a little bit more information and speculation from people. And a lot of the early speculation about expansion 1 was maybe that it would involve Duskwood, which is an area in World of Warcraft and the Hearthstone lore. Um, Duskwood, part of the speculation about that as well was this image that was released by the Latin American Hearthstone Twitter account, which showed a lot of the characters that symbolized the Year of the Raven. I mean, sorry, the Year of the Mammoth, trucking through what looked like Duskwood. You've got the Kobold from Kobolds and Catacombs, Dinosaur from Ngoro, what is apparently somebody from Karazhan, um, a Yeti possibly from Knights of the Frozen Throne, and then you've got the stuff which I didn't notice at first, the like eyeball and tentacle. Well, I noticed the eyeball and tentacle, which is representing whispers of the old gods, and then with the Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, you've got like a potion at the top of the one tree representing the Cabal. Then you've got like a little jade stone in the very bottom right by the raven that represents the jade, and a club by the Yeti's foot that represents the grimy goons. So you're the representing of the three different gangs in Mean Street of Gadgetzan. So that this was our kind of first speculation around Duskwood. Duskwood is the place which houses the portal to the Emerald Dream, which a lot of people also compared this to. It's also kind of a portal with vines, around it, and a lot of the coloring as well that people were talking about for expansion one did remind them of the Emerald Dream. So that was some more kind of information pointing people towards Duskwood. And then more recently, um, there was some people did some digging on GoDaddy, which is a site for registering domains. For those who don't know, domain is just like a website address. So like Hearthstone.com, for instance, a domain. And historically, people have kind of been able to get guesses as to what the possible expansions are going to be, looking at what domains Blizzard have registered on GoDaddy, which is a site where or a service that allows you to register and buy a domain. And the one domain that people noticed was purchased by Blizzard a couple months ago was Cenarian Circle. So there was a lot of speculation that this could be related to, could be the name of the new expansion. Cenarian Circle is an organization in the Warcraft lore that basically represents and looks after all of the druid interests across both factions. So its members are like Malfurion and Cenarius are some of the obviously kind of head members of the organization. And it includes druids from like both factions. The Horde and Alliance, your classic World of Warcraft expansions, and well, Warcraft expansions at that. So I mean, there's a possibility this maybe ties in even with the kind of Emerald Dream and Duskwood. Duskwood is, I believe, a Night Elf kind of area. So maybe there is some kind of tie-in there. And then the final piece of information we've gotten is an announcement of an announcement of an announcement, which is Blizzard tweeting or that I'll quote their I think it was a tweet here. Nothing gets the Play Hearthstone creative juices flowing like some time outdoors. I'm going camping and looking for the next expansion. That was from Dave Cossack's perspective, one of the Hearthstone devs. And then Ben Brode sends or replies, "Have fun. Bring the expansion back soon. We're supposed to announce it this month." Traditionally, March has been a big month for Blizzard announcing their expansions. So we are fairly sure that it's going to be announced in March and probably launched in April. That looks like a likely time frame here. And so the image here that they showed was Dave Cossack with like a woolly hat on, one of the stupid ones with the ears, with an image behind him of like some mountains and clouds. It's not very like I don't really know where that leaves us. What that image leaves us. It just looks like a good Twitch emote basically. So okay. So what are your guys' thoughts on these possible themes or the speculation for the expansion? What would you put your money on? Duskwood, Cenarian Circle, or do you think we're going to be completely blindsided and we're just being baited by Blizzard?
Like, to be honest, I don't know much about some. So I mean, basically my kind of very impactful comment will be, I think it has to do with the forest.
Thanks.
It's gonna have like nature things
okay.
in it. That's my positive contribution.
So basically, like what, 80% of World of Warcraft?
Yeah. So you mean
trees
because
and
there's a
elves.
branch in it, it'll probably have something to do with trees.
Trees, yeah.
Yes. And nature, like we'll have a nature part to it.
Okay. So unlike all those other expansions.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know enough about like the Warcraft lore to know these things, unfortunately, right?
Okay,
So,
but based on the evidence you can see and the information that the links to, do you think it looks like credible information? Just on like analyzing the evidence that we have, does the speculation sound reasonable to you in your experience of Hearthstone at least?
yeah, I mean, the fact that for me, what probably is sort of the biggest clue is the registering. That one seems to kind of be the big one for me, if you will, because
Yeah.
usually the guys have been right, they've been spot on. That when Blizzard
Mm.
have released it, it's been like, oh well, look,
We
it's
knew.
we knew exactly, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, the Duskwood theory also seemed pretty good as well. I'm not sure how closely Duskwood and the what's it,
Cenarian Circle. Like Cenarius?
Cenarian Circle. Yeah, I'm not sure how close related they are though.
I'm not entirely sure either. I mean, ultimately, you know, Duskwood is somewhat related. I think Duskwood is kind of it's in the Twilight Grove, which is an area that I think is Night Elf controlled. Um, yeah, I mean, it's surrounding it is like Elwyn Forest. So and the Cenarian Circle sits on the. I think the Cenarian Circle's headquarters are located in the town of in the town of Nighthaven in the Moonglade, which is Night Elf side, and most of their leaders are Night Elves like Malfurion and Cenarius. So they could be related. Both kind of theories could be right and leading us in at least the right direction. But yeah, as you say, the Cenarian Circle is a very specific domain name that they registered, and it does sound like it could be the name of an expansion. Like, the
Yeah.
Cenarian Circle, that doesn't sound unrealistic, right? For the name of the expansion?
Gadget design. But okay, so what? I haven't had the time to look at it, so like I won't like sit here and pretend like what I'm saying is actually at all relevant. But you have to take into account that Blizzard does try to sort of coincide their games, because when we had and help me out here because I've got a headache, so I'm brain farting. But when the new World of Warcraft release came out, Legion.
Yep.
Yeah. We also directly after that we had a Hearthstone update, and it was Mean Streets of Kazakhstan, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, one of the places that was one of the raids that you went to a lot when you were playing for Legion to level up your characters so that you can have a bunch of leveled up characters when you're going over into Legion, was actually a place of raid where like a lot of people were raiding, and you were getting a free pet there if you got it at the raid. Someone's got to help me out that this. It was a long time ago and I haven't played World of Warcraft in a while, but I like the fact that they tend to sort of keep what is concurrent in each of their games and sort of marry it together, everything except Overwatch that they chuck out the back door because screw Overwatch, we don't play it anymore. But regardless, I think
Yeah,
for
I mean,
me,
Overwatch does have links to the other Blizzard games now with the whole Blizzard World thing. But yeah,
yeah.
I,
So
I can't actually comment on the Legion stuff. I haven't played WoW personally since long before Legion. So
okay, no, but what I'm trying to say is maybe like I like that. I actually like the idea of the Cenarian Circle, but I haven't played World of Warcraft current like recently enough to be able to tell you what's sort of going on over there. But I know that Blizzard does like to keep their games concurrent, so it might actually have something to do with something that's being very popular in World of Warcraft at the moment. So I'm going to trust these guys with what they are bringing to the table because obviously they're playing it. And
yeah,
I
well,
actually think they're going to be spot on with
from what I know,
both.
basically just from BlizzCon, the next Hearthstone expansion, I mean, the next World of Warcraft expansion is like Battle for Azeroth, which is going back to
Mm-hmm.
a more classic Horde versus Alliance kind of theme, and I'm not really sure how that ties in with the Cenarian Circle or Duskwood, other than that the Cenarian Circle is, I suppose, one of the few organizations that crosses alliances. It's not really they don't really pick a faction because they represent druids from both sides. I suppose that's kind of actually true for there's a few other neutral organizations, but yeah, maybe the Cenarian Circle will play a relevant role in Battle for Azeroth. I don't know if they
Could
are
be, could
actually
be.
if that is going to be the Hearthstone expansion. But I don't think that the two games will tie themselves too closely together, but
No,
there could definitely be some kind of
no.
references that you're
I
making.
just like having a little bit of synergy to keep things like interesting. But let's revisit this again afterwards, and then we'll be like, "Oh, we were completely horribly wrong. We are so terrible," or "Hey, we totally knew. Like we're so cool."
Yeah, we'll definitely have some more information soon, hopefully. No kind of idea of when exactly this announcement is going to be of the new expansion that Ben Brode and Dave Cossack were, hinting towards. But I imagine they'll maybe let it build for a day or two, and then maybe there'll be an announcement of the actual official announcement time. That kind of stream, because we're still expecting that. That's why I call it the announcement of the announcement of the announcement. Um,
Yep.
yeah. Okay. So
Typical Blizzard, to be honest.
yeah. So moving back onto more concrete things, we do know that the next HCT tour stop is going to be Toronto, which is going to be coming up this weekend. HCT Toronto, unlike the previous ones we've seen before, which have largely been qualification events where you've needed to qualify and they've just been 16-player events. This is going to be a big open event, similar to the kind of like DreamHack events we've seen in the past. So we're going to see a lot of the top names traveling from Europe. We were talking before the show. Pandemonium was saying, looking up a lot of the players. Stan Sifka, players like that, that are going to be traveling. So we're going to be seeing a lot of top names at Toronto, and I'm definitely excited to see how that kind of differing format works out. The kind of decks that you would bring to a format that's 16 players versus a format that's 256 players is actually very different because you have to cater for a varying range of player styles. It's also you are less likely to encounter any individual player, so preparing for any individual player's playstyle is
Useless.
less rewarding in a 256 person tournament than it is in a 16 person tournament. So, all these kind of things do have an influence on the meta, and I'll be interested to see how the meta is going to be for this after HCT Sydney, which is the previous HCT event. The meta was a bit of a mess there, really, all over the show. I don't really think that meta is going to be too indicative. Going forward, I think if we look at some of the qualifiers that have been happening with Copa America, those are probably going to be more indicative of the kind of lineups we're going to see. But those haven't really been in the forefront. So for most viewers, they're just going to be seeing HCT Toronto. And I'm definitely looking forward to that. Although for us here in Africa, the time zone's not going to be ideal. But we're kind of used to watching events on American time, right? Or, I mean,
Yeah.
Toronto's Canada, but
Really weird times.
North American time. Yeah. So hopefully the
Such
times
is
are a little bit better for us, but I imagine for them they're going to be running it all day Toronto time because they're going to have lots of Swiss rounds like we have with DreamHack. So yeah, keep an eye out for that coming up this weekend. But there is one more thing, and that's our Magma Rages tip to keep you from raging. So with the Hall of Fame changes that we've seen coming up, um, there has been some really useful info on the Hearthstone subreddit about how to actually maximize the dust that you're getting from your Hall of Fame nerfs. So the three cards, just as a reminder, that are getting moved to the Hall of Fame are Cold Light Oracle, Ice Block, and Molten Giant. And the way this works is you will get a full dust for the two copies that you have of them. So if you have two golden copies, two normal copies, you'll get the full dust for the two golden copies, and you won't have to disenchant them. Uh, Whereas if you just have two normal copies and one golden copy, I think you'll get one golden copy's worth of dust and one normal copy's worth of dust. So
you basically get the highest number of dust.
yeah,
from
the highest
maximum.
two pair in
Yes.
poker terms that you can formulate for dust value here. So there is quite a long post about how to maximize the dust, and we'll definitely link it in the show notes or the description on YouTube, and I'll link it on Twitch as well. But the short answer basically is if you're missing a copy of any card, then craft it golden if you can. And if you have a golden copy of a card, you don't have to do anything. If you have the normal copy, then you can make a choice. If you want to upgrade to a golden copy, for free, craft the golden copy, which basically means you just get back the dust you would have gotten for it's a net gain of 0 dust. Sorry, that's kind of where I'm getting with that. But you just get the golden card for free. And if you want the most dust possible, just do nothing. So if you have normal copies of the cards, the answer is just do nothing, unless you want the golden cards. If you have
Like
the
me.
dust in the bank that you can afford to craft the golden cards and then get the dust back later, then go ahead and craft them. But if you're sitting in a scenario where you don't have the cards at all, then craft golden if you can. If you can't, craft normal, and that's fine. You'll get the dust back, and then basically you can dust them afterwards to just get back the normal value you get from dusting any card. Um, and that is kind of something that you can see as a profit in a way if you didn't, you know. So that's kind of the one way you can profit from these cards is from getting the full dust value and then disenchanting them afterwards if you are sure you're not going to be playing wild, and you're not going to need these cards because cards like Ice Block and even Molten Giants are probably definitely going to be staples going forward in wild. Ice Block probably almost definitely so. So if you do tend to playing mage, almost at all in wild, I would say you probably don't want to dust Ice Block. So just make sure if you don't have these cards, craft them before the rotation happens, which will be when the next expansion launches. So you've still got a bit of time to earn some dust um, to maximize the dust return that you'll get. So yeah, um, what are your guys' plans for these Hall of Fame cards?
I'm probably going to craft golden copies of it because I have normal ones.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm going to see what I can do, and see if I have enough gold or dust to try and craft or gold. Because I mean, the fact that it's 2 epics and a rare means it's going to be a lot of.
Mm. Yeah. So you won all the golden copies of the cards. That's what you're saying, right? You can't
Much,
turn
yes.
down the offer of a free golden copy,
No,
even if it
free
means
golden
It's
cards.
even if it
Dale.
means you need
It's
to buy
Dale,
packs
come
in
on.
order to get the dust to do it.
I will it's something. It's one of these cases I would not recommend anyone else does unless you have all the cards. But it's probably something I'm gonna do because I want all the golden cards for free, and I'll probably use the dust on the new cards anyway. So, I mean, if anyone knows anything about the whole concept of diminishing returns, this is probably the definition of it. Like, it's probably not worth buying more packs just so you can get the golden, but I like golden cards. That's my logical reasoning there.
And yourself, Salty Monkey?
Just don't think Dale is very smart for his profession, is he? Must have been the hair that he
He's
cut
just
or
a
something.
hoarder. That's all. He wants shiny things.
I roll
He's
neat.
basically a raven.
He's basically a raven.
I see what you did there.
I won't be doing anything. I won't even be disenchanting them afterwards because I sort of like just keeping them around. I won't be crafting anything. I'll just take the free dust I get from having what I have and just keep going with that because I missed Marino Jackson in the recent Tavern Brawl because I forgot that I'd freaking disenchanted that bad boy, and now I'm sad. So these cards are important enough for me to keep them around. I'm not crafting goldens. I'm just leaving them right there. Happy. Let's go.
Okay.
What are you doing, Deb?
I will wait until the last possible moment, like I usually do with all these things, and then I'll probably craft golden ice blocks because ice block, and freeze mage in particular deck I like. I crafted like last time I crafted golden ice lance and conceal. Like I basically picked the ones I want, but I didn't craft like golden Sylvanas and Ragnaros.
Yeah.
So I will craft golden with the dust that I can at the time, because I don't want any downtime where I've got the dust invested in these cards. I'm gonna just try to do it last possible minute and not forget, like I did with the Raza and Patches nerfs where I didn't dust them. So yeah, I'm gonna try to do that. My strategy is to procrastinate one, so that I don't tie up my dust. Not that I actually have that much dust, so I'll probably only end up crafting golden ice blocks because that's the priority one for me to have a free copy of. I did actually already craft 2 two normal molten giants to play a wild tavern brawl, but I did that before they announced the nerf, unfortunately. Otherwise, I probably would have just tried to craft the golden ones instead. That was pretty unfortunate timing.
Yeah.
Unfortunate timing.
Yeah.
Unfortunate timing.
Let us know what you're doing with your ideas. If you've got some really cool return ideas, let us know.
Yeah.
But I dare you to be smarter than we were just now.
Well, yeah. I mean, the kind of maths for optimization is in this Reddit post, so it's kind of difficult to beat that. But it'll definitely be interesting to hear what everyone is going to be doing with their cards, what their
Yeah.
strategy is. It's interesting to hear different perspectives. The Ultimate Hoarder has all the cards perspective, like Pandemonia. And then the rest of us that are being slightly more reasonable. Um, yeah, if you want to give us feedback, please leave comments on the YouTube video. You can also contact us on Twitter. You can find Pandemonia at PandemoniaZA. You can find Salty Monkey at Salty Monkey with an H
Right?
at the end there. Yeah, it's below you. And you can find myself at Dib_gaming on Twitter. So you can give us any feedback there or on YouTube. And please go ahead and like, subscribe on YouTube, and share the video as much as possible. The more people we get watching, the more feedback we get, the better the videos become, and the more time we can spend, we can justify spending on creating all this content if we know that it's reaching more people. So please go ahead and share. It is super appreciated. So from everyone here, thanks a lot, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Cheerio.
Cheers.